We will now move on to the final hearing of the evening, unless somebody else would like to hear any other bills after this one. We are up to Street Harassment Advisory Commission. The sponsor of that is Councilwoman Sneed. So Councilwoman Sneed, I'll turn over the floor to you to explain what we are hearing today.
Thank you. This is for the street harassment bill, and there has been talk about eagerness to return to normal after we in social distancing practices due to COVID-19. However, there are many normals that we all know we cannot return to. One normal is that of street harassment. Baltimore's official policy to make streets safer and more accessible for all bus riders and bike riders, pedestrians, and car users. We must also address our experiences on the street. A 2019 study found that 71% of women reported experiencing harassment in public. That's in public, not while on the job. It's not just women who experience this, but members of the LGBTQ community as well. Many of us are so used to it that we accept it as normal, and we should no longer. Other cities have taken action. In 2017, the District of Columbia City Council passed the Street Harassment Prevention Act. This credited the Advisory Committee on Street Harassment, which brings together 8 members of the city government and 9 members of the public who represent organizations that conduct advocacy and provide direct service. This legislation follows DC's model, shifting cultural perceptions of street harassment through messaging and community organizing, not through punishment. People must know that it's unacceptable, and this is why the working group will be a community-based and work under the health commissioner. We need to treat this as a public health issue, not as an issue that can be solved by the police. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to the agencies. Is there any agency that would like to weigh in on this one way or another?
Mr. Chairman, this is Vic Turvilla from the City Law Department. We had a few issues with the composition of the commission, but the councilwoman has amendments that take care of our particular problem, and we will approve the bill for form and legal sufficiency with the amendments that she's going to be offering.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sneed. Are you going to offer those amendments?
Yes, and they've been sent to all the members already.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Is any other do any other agencies want to weigh in on this?
Council, this is Marsha Collins of DPW. Stephanie, can you? I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. This is Marsha Collins, representing the Department of Public Works. I don't know who's interfering, but we submitted a bill report. We had a number of questions and issues we raised. We also offered 2 what I would consider technical amendments that we provided with our report. I didn't know if you wanted to go through any of those issues or consider those amendments. I would leave that up to you, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. You can explain them.
Okay, just in our report, if the committee members have had a chance to read it, we were concerned about having some clarity about the mission of the commission. The legislation also references 6 agencies, city agencies, that would be expected to adopt any policies that the commission would develop and utilize their training protocols or modules to educate their public-facing employees. One of the areas where we had some confusion was it talks about agencies accepting reports of harassment from either victims or witnesses, but it wasn't clear to me what would happen as a result of someone providing that information. Would the commission be required to take some action or to refer to an appropriate enforcement entity, or I'm just confused about what would happen with those reports. If I were filing a report with DPW about harassment, I would expect DPW to respond in some manner, and I'm not really sure what was envisioned. It wasn't clear to me in the legislation what was envisioned for that particular aspect. We also suggested that.
Hold on, before you move on to, Marcia, before you move on to the next one, Councilwoman Sneed, do you want to respond to that?
Sure. So it would be better if still they were reported, but we still need the proper entities to like handle it as a serious matter. So it would still need to go to the police or whoever. It's just that the committee needs to be made aware of what's happening. So if there's a serious charge, it still needs to be handled by the appropriate authorities.
So would that, I'm sorry, Councilwoman, would that mean that the commission would forward that information so that the agencies would give the report to the commission?
I will hope that whoever is making a claim would submit the information to both parties, actually, because this is a serious claim. We don't need it to go underneath the rug. So my hope is that they would initially reach out to the right contacts and also let us know what's going on as well, so we're aware of it.
Okay. One of the other issues we raised was the frequency of the training for forward-facing, public-facing employees, whether this would be part of our agency budgets.
I'm sorry, Marcia, can you give a little more, can you give an example of what you mean?
Well, the legislation says that the identified city agencies, of which there are 6, DPW is one of the 6, are required to accept these training modules developed by the commission for employees who are forward-facing. And I'm trying to find out, are we doing this on a routine basis or annually? Or I'm just trying to figure out if we need training people to do this. Just trying to attach and understand what impact it may have on our budget.
Got it. Yeah. I don't even think that those are good points. I would think that would come out of that would be additional training. So yes, that would be able to come under each agency's training manual. So yes, that would be an additional cost.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. One of the areas of, there are high-risk areas that are listed in the legislation, which are broadly placed. One of the comments I received from our equity officer was a concern that one of the places where a lot of harassment occurs is on social media, and she expressed some concern that that's a very difficult arena to tackle. Do you know whether this would be an expectation of or of interest to the commission to look at that as well?
I guess we could leave it to the panel to discuss it, the commission to discuss it, but we were not, I was not going under social media. That's just somewhat of something that we wouldn't be able to control. That would be a bit much.
Yeah, I respect that answer. And another issue that we brought up is that some of these that we were
hold on, Marcia. Richard, can you mute yourself, please?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. We were wondering if the Office of Equity and Civil Rights was invited to comment on this legislation. The CRC is listed as a member of the commission and also the chair. And I was wondering if they had I don't think the bill was referred to them. I was wondering if they had an opportunity to speak with you or to offer up comments just to make sure they're able to take this task on.
So from what I'm aware of, we sent it out to everyone. I'm not sure. I don't have anything additional from them. If you would like, we can make a special request to get a little more information or get what you're looking for from them. I would be open to that.
Okay, I'm not necessarily looking at anything specifically from them. I was just curious why it hadn't been referred to them for comment. So I was a little concerned that I just wanted to make sure they knew it. Mr. Chair, I'm just going to go right to my two, what I'm calling technical amendments that I had DLR draft and was attached to our report. They were two pretty straightforward ones. I believe there was an error made in the bill identifying the Maryland Transportation Authority as an entity when in looking at the high-risk areas. I think what was really meant was the Maryland Transit Authority, Transit Administration. So we offered a technical amendment for that. And because one of the high-risk areas happened to be city-owned or city-occupied buildings, we suggested that the Department of General Services be added to the list of city agencies. So those are our two amendments that DLR prepared for us.
Okay. Councilwoman Sneak, are you okay with those amendments?
I wouldn't be opposed to those, no. I don't know if we want to just hold another hearing to go through those amendments, or if the committee would be okay with just getting those as floor amendments, additional floor amendments for the next council meeting.
No, I'm okay with us getting it as amendments. If DLR's already drafted it, Marcia, if you can send it over to Richard, we'll send it to the committee. We can vote on it prior to the conclusion of this hearing.
Okay, it was submitted with my report. Richard, do you have it?
Just FYI, we are striking the MTA altogether. That was one of our amendments, Marcia.
Okay, so that solves that problem.
Right, I think so.
This is Victor from the City Law Department, and I just want to, if we add another agency, I want to make sure that at the end of the day, we have an odd number of people on this, voting members of the commission.
Well, this isn't adding them to the, Victor, this isn't adding them to the commission. It's adding them to the list of defined city agencies.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
All right. Do any other agencies want to weigh in?
Mr. Chair, this is DePaul with Health. So DePaul Nibber on behalf of the Baltimore City Health Department. We do absolutely agree with the aim of this bill, but we are kind of curious because of some of the comments that were put forward regarding the substance of this bill, what was meant by the health commissioner kind of taking the lead on the commission as well as the administration of this bill. Councilwoman Sneed, if you're able to provide just a little bit more clarity on that point,
So,
it would be really
I don't expect the health commissioner to be a part of chairing this, but if they can assign someone from the health department to be a part of this, is what we are looking for. But I will not add to any extra duties of the health commissioner, because I understand she's busy, especially during this time.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Anybody else? Any members of the committee or any other agencies want to weigh in?
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'll defer to Stephanie first.
Well, thank you, Liam. Stephanie Murdoch, Legislative Liaison for the Department of Housing and Community Development. I'll start with just a friendly amendment. On page 3 of the bill, I thought it would be helpful to add to the definition of street harassment source of income, which is language that we've been using in a lot of bills to address inequity over the past few years. And I just wanted to add that but I do share Marcia's concerns regarding the reporting requirements on page 6. I want to make sure that folks know that any type of harassment should be immediately reported to the police department, in addition to the commission. And certainly the agency would like to be made aware of these particular incidents and locations.
Okay, so Stephanie, do you have text for your amendment?
I do not, sir.
Oh, it's going to be difficult to pass it tonight unless you want to give it to the chair as a full amendment. And
It's just a friendly amendment, so something to consider.
okay, Marcia, if you have the text on your amendments, could you email them to me? Because I've actually got one set that has an incorrect bill number on it. It's a little confusing. So if you could send the 2 amendments you want to move, and then,
Well, one of the amendments is moot because they're
okay.
the entity altogether, but I'll send it to you.
Okay. Well, then you can cross that one out.
All right. While you're sending that over, if there's anybody in attendance who would like to testify, please raise your virtual hand. I see 2 hands just popped up. So while Marcia sending that over, if we can go through the 2 people who raised their hand to testify, to allow them to give over their testimony.
Okay, we have Jed Weeks. Jed Weeks.
Thanks. Hi, Chairman Schleifer, members of the committee. My name is Jed Weeks. I'm the policy director for Bike More. We're Baltimore City's livable streets advocacy organization. We're testifying in support of this today. Street harassment disproportionately affects people who walk, bike, and take public transit because they are out on our streets and exposed to harassers more often than people driving cars. Nearly every person who bikes for transportation or waits for public transit has experienced street harassment, and every woman, non-binary, and trans person that bikes or waits for transit has experienced street harassment and often experiences it on every single trip they take. Studies have shown that fear of and past experiences of harassment are major barriers to people choosing to bike or ride public transit when those options would otherwise meet their needs. Specifically, while the majority of people who bike for transportation are Black, and the majority of people who ride public transit are Black women, both of these demographics report harassment as both a detriment to their riding experience and as a major barrier to potential ridership at far greater rates than other people. This has to stop, and these barriers need to be broken down. We know legislation like this has been effective in other jurisdictions, and recommendations implemented by advisory commissions on transit systems like the neighboring WMATA system in Washington, D.C., both reduced instances of harassment and significantly increased reporting of harassment. So for these reasons, Bike More supports legislation to establish a street harassment advisory commission, and we're here for any questions.
You're muted, Chairman, if you were saying something.
I was just saying thank you for that testimony, and that we could move on to the next person testifying.
Shauna Potter.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. My name is Shauna Potter. I'm the author of a book called Making Spaces Safer, a guide to giving harassment the boot wherever you work, play, and gather. I'm the founder of the Baltimore chapter of Hollaback, which is an international anti-street harassment organization. And I've been working to end street harassment and other forms of hate speech and identity-based violence since 2011. I've collected stories of street harassment on the Hollaback Baltimore website. I run trainings and workshops. I'm an organizer and an activist. And since starting the Safer Space program here in Baltimore, my specialty has been teaching venues and clubs and small businesses in how to make their spaces more welcoming for everyone and how to deal with harassment when it inevitably comes up. I personally have been harassed, followed, intimidated, and groped in this city. I've been made to feel angry, afraid, disgusted, ashamed, and frustrated. And so I'm a street harassment expert on a few different fronts. And on our site, you'll find very similar stories. Mine is not a unique experience. But because I'm an expert, I can tell you a couple things. Street harassment has not gone away just because there's a pandemic. It happens in every sphere. All identities, races, and classes can be victims of street harassment and can be perpetrators of it. It disproportionately affects the already marginalized populations of women of color, people who are disabled, trans women, non-binary and gender non-conforming people. And some of those stories I've collected include harassment from police and official city workers. Street harassment prevents the full and free participation of over half our population in public spaces. It is a public health issue that deserves a public education campaign to help prevent it from happening in the first place. So I support this commission because, as I understand it, it is not about punishment or criminalization, which would, of course, disproportionately affect men of color, thereby negating the promise of keeping our citizens safe. It's about making clear that everyone deserves the same access to public space free of harassment and violence. I've been working to raise awareness of street harassment for 10 years. I've been working to build people's skills on how to respond, whether they are the victim or a bystander. And it is way past time for our city to help me do that. Research shows that when the onus to stop street harassment is placed on the victim, it is not enough. It's on everyone else to safely intervene. So this commission is important because it will help Baltimore learn how, and I support it. Thank you very much for allowing my testimony today.
Thank you very much. And
Mr. Chair.
I received the amendments via email from Marcia, as I assume everybody else on the committee did as well. If there's anybody else who would like to weigh in, I think we covered all agencies I wanted to. Matt, do you have anything from the mayor's office on this? Matt, do you have anything? Matt Stegman, do you have anything from the mayor's office on this?
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. No, it sounds like a great bill.
Okay, thank you.
This is Liam from DOT. I just wanted to jump in and say we support with amendments and the amendment that has already been referenced, which is correcting the drafting error that said Maryland Transportation Authority and is being corrected with Maryland Transit Administration. So DOT supports. Thank you.
Hey, Liam, what is that? What's it say on your hat?
This is a Frank Murphy special. So I asked Frank when I joined DOT, I was like, what's your favorite project you worked on in over 40 years? And he said when they were putting in Camden Yards, no one believed that the traffic patterns would work. So this hat is one of the original, it's from that project. He's got a bunch of these old trucker hats, if anybody wants one.
Oh, nice. Those are collector's items.
Yeah.
But we expect you to wear a different one for each hearing moving forward. So thank you.
10-4.
Councilwoman Sneed, do you want to move Marcia's amendments?
Sure. I prefer to move them all in a package because we have the law department's 3 amendments and then Marcia's 1. So we can just move all 3 as...
Mr. Chair, Marcia sent 2 amendments. Now, if she could clarify, are you only moving the first amendment?
Because we're erasing the MTA one altogether.
Okay, so which one are we not moving on Marcia's sheet?
On Marcia's sheets, that is, hold on for one moment. On Marcia, it should be number 1 altogether, that we're not going to move that one. So
Okay,
we're
so
okay with...
You're moving your 3 amendments and her 2nd amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'm good.
All right, go ahead, Councilwoman Sneed.
The feeling is falling in, but...
So I motion that we move all 4 amendments as a package, and remember they are just basically technical and for the most part of these amendments, and helping to get clear language from the law department as well to get it passed to address their concerns. And you all have them.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. All right, the amendments pass. Councilman Sneed, would you like to make a motion on the entire bill?
Yes, I move that we pass this bill with the adopted amendments to the next council meeting. Did I do that right?
Yeah, sounds good. Richard, second by Councilman Cohen.
Going on the second.
Can we get a roll call vote on that?
Yes, sir. Ready? Chair Schleifer?
Yes.
Chair Schleifer votes aye. Vice Chair Burnett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burnett votes aye. Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. McCray?
Yes.
Member McCray votes aye. Mr. Pinkett?
Yes.
Mr. Pinkett votes aye. And Sponsor Sneed?
Yes.
Sponsor Sneed votes aye. Mr. Chair, there's 6 votes in the affirmative, no negatives. We can go to second read on the next meeting.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.